We have recently moved into a Victorian flat at the Scottish seaside, and I'm very excited to finally be able to share some renovation content with you guys. The first room I decided to tackle is my sewing room. So we live in a 3-bedroom flat, with one bedroom being the one Jack and I share. He's got one bedroom to himself where he's just made a little bit of a dressing room for himself. And then I got the other bedroom as my sewing room. I also use it to write up my PhD from there, so it also works as an office. And then I obviously create a lot of content, so I also needed to have a little corner where I can film reels. With this being a completely blank canvas, I was very excited to think about what I wanted to do with my sewing room, and I came up with the conclusion that I wanted to make it Ghibli inspired. And I know we're all obsessed with Ghibli interiors. There's just something so whimsical about the way that houses are portrayed in Ghibli movies. And it's not just like the really big luxurious places like the bathhouse or the palace in House Moving Castle. It's more so the actually lived-in places that I adore. I just feel like in Ghibli movies there is a lot of character building being done just by showing someone's room, things that we aren't necessarily being told, but we can take just from looking at the places they live in. For example, if we look at Zeniba's cottage in Spirited Away, the way she lives is very different to the way her sister lives. We can learn immediately from that she's not very materialistic, that she's living by herself, but she's making do and she's very resourceful. She's got a lot of dried things, a lot of stored things that show that she's maybe collecting things throughout the summer and then using them throughout the winter. And her house just generally feels very warm and inviting, which means we immediately trust the character. On the other hand, in House Moving Castle, Howl's room is filled with all of these trinkets, and we knew that he was running from something, but we didn't know how obsessed he was with it and how scared he was to actually be caught. So all of these magical trinkets symbolize his fear of being caught and that he's still very much a child at heart, and all he really cares about is running away from his responsibilities. On the other hand, if we look at the house that Kiki grew up in Kiki's delivery service, we don't really learn a lot about her parents, but just looking at the house we know that she's had a really lovely childhood, that she's been loved and that she's been cared for, and that she has a very safe home. And her house is such gold. I absolutely love her house. All of the wallpaper is so beautiful. But then I didn't really want to just recreate one of the rooms shown in a Ghibli movie. I rather thought, if I was a character in a Ghibli movie, what would my room say about me? So obviously I'm a seamstress, I love my books, I love the outdoors, but I don't actually like being outdoors. And I feel like I'm still very much a child at heart, where I just like pretty things and I like the idea of living in a fairy tale world. So I felt like I really just wanted to create a room that felt like it was part of a fairy tale. Like someone who would love the idea of adventuring, but is actually too scared to leave the house. Someone who loves flowers, but isn't able to keep them alive. So let's take a look at what the room looked like when we first moved in. Everything was very blue, and the bits of the wall above the picture railing were apricot, which I don't think is a very good color combination, if I'm being honest. Also, the previous owners weren't very good at painting edges, so a lot of the bits, like the skirting boards and the railings that were meant to be white, were painted over. So it was going to be a big job to get all of that to look nice again. Additionally, the historical water damage in the ceiling that has been dealt with, but no one's ever taken care of it and painted over it, had to be dealt with as well. So I got some stain blocker and was planning to apply it on that. So the first thing I did was try out some paint samples, because obviously getting rid of the blue was such an important thing. So I tried out Bookroom Green by Little Greene, which was one of the colors I was considering for the living room as well, but it felt a little bit too light in here. So I took it over there, and I really didn't want to make the room green, because obviously Jack and I love green, and a lot of things in our flat are green, so it felt like having yet another green room wasn't really what I wanted. Also, I had in mind that this room might eventually still be turned into the kitchen or perhaps a nursery, so I just thought it would be nice to have kind of like a neutral color, or something that is just not going to be very obnoxious if the room was ever repurposed. I also tried out Mid Umber from Dulux Heritage, which is a beige with a bit of a pinkish undertone, and I tried Old White from Farrow and Ball, which in the living room felt quite nice, but over there it just looked white because the room's north facing, so everything just looks very different in there. But the Bookroom Green I was just obsessed with, so I kind of decided, even though it was green, I'm just gonna go with it, because it is light enough to be almost a neutral, but still green enough to add character, and it just felt very much like a color that spoke to my heart. So I don't have too much footage of me painting, because I did take a lot of footage of me painting this room, so I thought, you know, that's going to be something to look forward to in the future if you want to see me painting for 12 hours. I also dealt with the historical water damage, and painted over that. And then I was really nosy because there was this vent in the wall, and the room would have originally been the kitchen, so there would have been a massive Edwardian cooker in there. But I thought maybe, I mean, obviously I knew there wasn't the cooker still in there, but I thought maybe there's something behind the wall, because you could tell that it's not the original wall. So I thought maybe they had just drywalled something up. And just in case there was something hidden behind this wall, I opened up the vent and put the camera in there to see whether there's something worth saving. Unfortunately, they ripped everything out and bricked it up, so there's no original fireplace or anything behind it, which is unfortunately the standard for most Victorian flats in Scotland. In the 60s, they would have ripped all of these nice features out, thrown them away, and just put in a little vent. And the funny thing is, as I was painting, I realized there were some historical paint splatters on some of the white bits, and one of the colors was actually a green that was so similar to the green I was currently painting the room in. So if the previous owners had just not painted the room blue, it would have saved me so much time. But then it was finally time to do some decorating and some DIYs. So this is something I was originally considering doing for the living room as well, but Jack was saying that the flat is already cold enough as it is, and radiator covers are not gonna make it any better. But luckily for my room, I can do whatever I want. And since, I mean, imagine this not being here, but this is what I'm planning to make my kind of like real wall. Because as a content creator, you need a dedicated space that is across from a window where you can film your content, which I didn't have in the old flat. So I'm very excited about this, but unfortunately, this really nice, well-lit wall has the radiator. And obviously it's not the ugliest radiator in the world, but it's just not very pretty. So I thought I'd get this radiator cover and cover it. Let me tell you, my level of confusion, because it was literally like all of the screws were already screwed in, and you just had to like slot the bits on top of them, and they just kind of like slid in and just held. So it's like I wouldn't like stand on this, and you're meant to screw it to the wall, which I can't, because first of all the beading is in the way, but also this little bit here is in the way, and I can't push it further in because the radiator knob is down there. So it's kind of like maybe like a centimeter off the wall, but I'm gonna put some stuff on there so you won't actually be able to see that. But I brought the screwdriver. I thought I'd have to do any proper assembling, and it's just like sliding things on top of each other. That was so easy. But also I did buy the slightly more expensive one, so there is one from B&Q which is half the price. Unfortunately, it didn't fit the measurements of my radiator, so I had to go for the slightly pricier one, which totally worth it. This is also so heavy. I mean, I thought it would just be pressed wood, but it seems to be like proper wood. It's, I don't know. I'm like surprisingly like happy. How did this take me 3.5 seconds? I thought this would be like a whole evening sequence and I'd just be building this for hours, but I mean, good for me. Much improved. Maybe not perfect, but then, you know, it's gonna work with having like a whole kind of like picture wall here, lots of stuff hanging down there. I think it's gonna look so cute. And I already went to the new Oxfam bookshop on Byers Road, which recently opened, and got some new books. I was thinking of just kind of putting stuff on here. Does it? It wobbles a bit. So as long as the cat doesn't jump up, that's fine. I'm going to start moving stuff around a little bit, maybe tidy up a little bit, maybe even start hanging some pictures because I'm so excited about this. Let's do it. I had this very smart idea and put the sewing machine on here, which is really heavy. So at first I was like, is this going to destabilize the entire thing? But because it's so heavy, makes it wobble a little bit less. So I think I'm going to keep it up here because it's going to just make everything a little bit more stable. But then something super exciting. So in our old kitchen, we had these plates hanging on the wall, and I absolutely loved that, but I felt like the old kitchen wasn't very pretty, so I never really showed it to you guys. The new kitchen, worse. Also, the new kitchen has the only free wall completely tiled in this hideous tile, so we can't hang our plate shelf there or any decorations or anything really until we redo the kitchen. But that leaves me with these super cute plates that I would love to hang. So I've got like tons of them over here. I'll actually show you. Oops, don't drop them. So not all of them used to hang on the wall. Some of them were just on the plate shelf, but we've never eaten from them. They're just for decoration. And obviously the color is just like the perfect darker green to go with this. So I think I'm going to hang some of these on the wall. And obviously from an old sewing room, I did this weird thing where I just hung my embroidery hoops on the wall, and I also thought it looked really cute. So I think I'll just make a little arrangement of plates, embroidery hoops, and little frames. I think it's gonna look really pretty. So to hang plates, we actually had these little hooky things that we bought ages ago. So unfortunately, I don't really know where we got them from. Probably just Amazon. But they're just like these little spanner things that go around the plate. They are quite tricky to get on. So I think I'm going to ruin my freshly painted nails doing that. But that is the price we pay for whimsy. As you can tell, it's getting dark. The wall is basically done, and it makes such a huge difference. I feel like I'm so in love with what this looks like. I can't speak. So in love with what this looks like. This is exactly how I imagined it. What you can't see currently is that on top of the wardrobe is still a lot of crap. So that's just a bag of fake flowers, which I wanted to use to make some arrangements for the fireplace surround, which is here. It's not attached to the wall yet because there is another DIY coming which we have to do. Other than that, I think that is all that we can do for today, but I'm just so happy because this is going to be my real filming corner. Obviously still lots of other walls that we need to decorate, but this is the one I see when I do my makeup or work, and I kind of see my reflection in the mirror, and now I can see this behind me. We're going to continue working on this another day. Our next job will be to deal with this whole situation. I want to build a backing to the fireplace because like normally the fireplace surround would be around an actual fireplace, but even though we know there's a hole here behind the venti thing, we're not planning to like open it and have a proper fireplace installed because we have to first do the one in the living room, which also is a lot of effort. So with this one, we're just going to fake it for now, which is good because that means this is something you can also do at home even if you don't have a fireplace. So the plan is this fireplace surround, which is now just like leaning against the wall. I have to take the microphone off to reach a little bit further. So on the Christmas wish list is definitely a cable-free microphone so that the camera doesn't move every time I move because of the cable. Anyways, so what I'm planning to do is this bit of the fireplace here is going to be a little bit off the wall. So I'm planning to build a backing to this, which is just going to be made out of cardboard boxes. And then I'm going to put the fake tiles on it that I ordered. So now you might be thinking, wow, Tally, this is a great idea because you clearly recently unboxed this radiator cover. So you have this massive box already that you can reuse. Well, yeah, unfortunately, my 3 brain cells didn't think that as I packaged it away, and I kind of like stepped on it to squish it in and make it smaller. So now this massive box is bent here. Yeah, and I should say I did that as I already knew I was needing a massive piece of cardboard box to do the backing, so yeah, I'm just not that smart, I think. I'm just gonna use 2 big pieces of cardboard, kind of tape them together, just build this backing already, because the fake tiles are going to arrive tonight and it's gonna be dark, but I really wanna do it today. And Tilly, if you could not scratch the cardboard that I'm about to use, that would be great, thank you. Let's give it a try. Hello, sorry for the bad light again. I swear it is honestly not that orange in real life, but basically that's what it looks like. I think the tiles could have been a little bit bigger, but it's fine. I did expect for this to not quite be enough because it said it should be about just under a square meter, and this is just over a square meter. Still quite a bit missing, but I just wanted to see it first before ordering 2 packages because the package was like £30, so I just thought didn't want to spend £60 on something that didn't work at all. Also, excuse my painting outfit. I've just been painting the whole way. From like the width, because I cut like the little bits off the side rather than using another one here, I think it should just about fit if I position it very smartly. And then I need another 2, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so 1 package should do, but I was hoping that maybe 1 package would be enough to also cover the hearthstone, but now seeing how busy this pattern is, I don't think I also want this on the hearthstone. So maybe the hearthstone just stays as it is. We'll see. I definitely have to order another package, which will take another week or so to arrive. So this is just gonna look a little bit sad for now, I think. But I think in the long run it should work, hopefully. Very nice color. I think the dark green, I mean, you can't tell because obviously you probably see this as black and see everything around me as orange. So I'll wait for more to arrive and then we continue. Exciting news. The tiles arrived today so that I can finish the backdrop for the fireplace, but these are completely different tiles. Even though I reordered the exact same package that I ordered the last time. So this is annoying because that means I can't use these. I talked to Amazon, they refunded me and said I could just reorder these, but they can't promise whether this type or that type is delivered. So yeah, also these ones are generally smaller and cover less area. So I guess I'll just, yeah, reorder them and hope for the best, or maybe just not use the backdrop because I will never be able to finish it. The very last deliveries arrived, and excuse the no makeup look. I had to go into Glasgow for work yesterday, so I just wasn't feeling it today. We got more tiles and they are actually the ones we need. The only annoying thing about this is I ordered them and it said it would take like over a week to arrive, which is why I was kind of like very mopey about the whole thing because I obviously wanted to finish this for the video, and then was kind of like talking to Jack about it, and I was like, you know, this is annoying. I was doing this big DIY for the video. He was like, oh, but it's part of the process and surely your subscribers will understand. But I was also like, it's just gonna be not very satisfying for me to be like, I did this, didn't finish it, so yeah. But then because I was mopey about it, he took the other tiles, so these ones that were not the right size, and he just like patchworked them on, so obviously it doesn't look good, but it kind of like looks like to the point that if you didn't know and I wouldn't point it out, I could have filmed it in the reveal and only later been like, by the way, this is a mess. Let me show you what I mean. So very obviously these are the wrong tiles and these are the right tiles, and these are like emerald green and these are more like mossy green. And luckily I'm so relieved because they did actually send the right tiles this time, because I was already like, if they send me the wrong tiles again, I don't actually want these tiles. And also they don't cover quite as much square footage, so I would have almost needed 3 packages of these tiles, and I didn't want to spend more money. But we've got the right tiles, so we can try to very carefully pull this out, or actually I might just do this against the wall because Jack had to kind of like lift it up behind it because the surround is now attached. So I'll try to carefully pull these ones off where I can, put the right ones on, and then the fireplace will be finished. And then we've got one more delivery. Let's open it together. So this is something I didn't actually realize I wanted until we were at B&Q a few days ago. And we were buying paint for the front door, which we're currently painting red. and just went past the heaters. And Jack was kind of talking about how his dressing room was really cold and how he was considering getting himself a little electric heater. And then I was thinking, because my mom's coming over in a little bit over a week and she's going to be staying in this room, and that's partly why I wanted everything to be ready so she would have a nice room to stay in. But my mom's from Germany and she's just not used to flats being as cold as they are in Scotland. So I didn't want her to feel cold all the time, but also we can't afford to have the heating on just because she's here. So Tilly, I was actually just about to get up and get that out. Oh no, this isn't going very well. It is a little electric stove oven. And this is what it looks like. So it doesn't look amazing, but it doesn't look overly bad. It will probably look a little bit cringy when turn the fake flames on. I was actually a little bit surprised because I saw reviews of this online and people were like, we had a log burner and we replaced it with this one. And I'm like, if you have a real log burner, why would you buy this? But you know, who am I to judge? Let's install the little feet. I am honestly so happy with how this turned out. I feel like this is just such a whimsical, perfect room. And I'm also still amazed that the whole tile thing actually worked. Because it looked a little bit silly when the vent was visible, but now with the tiles and with the heater, it does look really pretty. Obviously, it would have been nicer if it had been tiled properly, and it would be nice to do something with the hearthstone, which is not very great looking. But as I mentioned earlier, this might eventually be repurposed. So if this becomes the kitchen counters would be along this side. So there's no point in tiling anything or putting a proper fireplace in here. And also that's basically what we're doing in the living room. So all the money goes into the living room. But considering I didn't spend tons of money on doing this turned out so nice. Most of the furniture I already owned, so all of this was in my previous sewing room. The china cabinet in the corner was part of the flat when we moved in. And then obviously we took the fireplace around from the living room and put it here. So also just repurposed. And all of these pictures were already in the old flat before, other than the one big one with the horse that I recently bought for this. So the main expenses really were just paint and the radiator cover, the fireplace DIY, the heater, and the rug. And I'm so excited to produce all of my content here and to sit by the window and write up my PhD and sew. But also my mom's coming over in a bit of a week and she's going to use this room to stay. So we're going to put a little bed in here for her. She's got the heater and I hope that she will feel very warm and welcome in here. One more thing that I didn't explicitly mention before, but you might have noticed, is that the floors changed. So now I've got an entire video of how we did the floors in the flat, and that we originally wanted to keep the floors in here because they were actually quite nice. But then because of some difficulties with the hallway, we needed to lift up the floor in here and realized there was no way of taking it out without destroying it. So we ended up having to also redo the floors in here, but then the floors you saw previously were actually just plastic tiles. So I'm still a little bit sad because I did like the look of them, but I do prefer having the actual wood in here, and also for the entire flat to have the floors throughout. Just in case you're wondering what's in that door right here behind me, this flat has two really big storage cupboards. One's coming from this room and the other one's coming from the living room. So this one is currently holding the tumble dryer, and eventually I'm hoping to have some water placed in here as well so that the washing machine can go in there as well. And if this becomes the kitchen, that would be the pantry, but if the kitchen stays in there, it could still be the laundry room. But that brings me to the end of the video. So I hope you enjoyed this renovation process, and I hope you like the way it turned out, because I am very happy with it. And even if you don't like it, I don't actually care, because it's my room. But the next video is going to be a sewing video, because I feel like now that I've got a Ghibli inspired room, we need to make another Ghibli inspired dress. And you know I've got this obsession with the Sophie Hatter dress. So that's what we're going to tackle in the next video. And then obviously you're still getting the living room renovation, probably in January time, just because we're waiting for the ceiling to be secured and replastered. Some of the cracks in the ceiling are just too deep to just paint over. Then we need to have the fireplace properly installed and the hole for the fireplace widened. Still waiting for the new light fixtures, so there's still some stuff going on. I'm also working on the hallway and kitchen and bedroom, and you know, just as you do when you move in. But there will be way more renovation content coming, but you know, spaced out a little bit, because these things unfortunately take time. But if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe to my channel, and let me know down in the comments which of the houses seen in Ghibli movies is your favorite one. And I hope I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye!